Welcome everybody. This is going to be a bilingual mini lesson about winter or invierno. The objective of this mini lesson is going to be to learn more about the winter season, and we are going to be creating our own winter diorama. We are going to be focusing on our listening skills, and we're going to be paying close attention to listen for cognates. Before we continue, cognates are words that are part of different languages but come from the same origin, the same root word. So in the case of English and Spanish, we find many different words that are very similar in the way they are pronounced, in the way that they are written. Those types of words allow children or language learners to start making connections between the languages, the two languages that they're trying to learn. So we're going to be listening for those types of words that sound similar. On the blog, you can find an overview of the whole activity from start to finish, and you also have the books that I'm recommending. You have links to the books that I'm recommending. The Snowy Day or Un Día de Nieve in Spanish. So this book was written in English, but it has its Spanish translation. So that's why we're going to be using both as part of this mini lesson. In terms of vocabulary, we are going to encourage children to explore and discover all the different words they know that are related to winter, and we're going to help them find and discover new ones. So we want to make winter the theme in terms of vocabulary and in terms of our activity or our project. Of course, words like winter and snow are pretty easy to discover because they're part of the story. But in the discussion or our conversation, other words related to the season might come up, and that's perfectly fine, and that's actually what we want. On the post, you also have a list of a few of the cognates that I found when I read the book. You also have other words that are not part of both stories, but you can use them and help children make the connection. In terms of materials, you are going to be needing a recycled shoebox or another type of small box if you have it, recycled paper, white paper, construction paper, pens, markers, color pencils, if you have Play-Doh, scissors, glue, and tape. And if your children have any small toys or accessories that they would like to include as part of their diorama, that it's wonderful, because also that will make them understand they're creating something they can play with later. In terms of strategy, we are going to follow the same structure that we used for the previous mini lesson and that I love to use when I'm thinking about and creating a lesson or any type of activity with children, and that is before, during, and after. What is going to happen before, what is going to happen during, and how are we going to close our time together. Before, we are going to gather, we're going to come together to read the story in either language. So we can start with English and then we're going to move on to Spanish, or we're going to start with Spanish and then we're going to read the one in English. So we have to make that choice. But after we make the choice, we are going to we're going to read the book and we're going to ask discovery questions to get an idea of previous knowledge about the subject. And we're going to encourage children to share their experiences and their questions about winter And what I like to use is I like to use a KWL chart to guide this process. Let me show you an example. And this is something you can easily recreate if you have a whiteboard or a chalkboard or your own piece of paper. So you don't have to print this format that I'm going to show you. This is just an example, an inspiration. Right here, you see this is the KWL chart. This is the freebie from Teachers Pay Teachers, so you can download it for free. But if you don't want to, it's fine, because as you can see, it's just taking a blank piece of paper and putting a chart with 3 columns: know, wondered, and learned. And for this first part, this discovery or exploration part, we are going to be focusing on the know and wonder columns. Again, you have a link to this chart as part of the post, but you don't have to print it. You can just follow the example as a template. We are going to read the full story in either English or Spanish, and we're going to ask the children to pay close attention for those cognates, those words that sound similar. And we're going to ask follow-up questions to assess comprehension as always. And we can ask the children for their first impressions of the story. And then we are going to read the story again. And we are going to remind the children to pay close attention to the words that sound similar. And after that, we are going to read the story in the other language. And what we're going to do is that as we read, we want to emphasize the words, we want to use the right intonation, and we want to use the right pauses to emphasize certain words or certain expressions. For those of us who might not feel comfortable reading in one language or the other, as part of the post, I am also sharing with you some read-aloud videos that you can find for this story in both English and Spanish. So if you are really very comfortable reading the book in English and you don't feel that comfortable with Spanish, when it's time to listen to the story in that language, you can go ahead and play the video, the read aloud video of the story in Spanish, and we can listen to the story together. So you don't have to read it yourself, and vice versa. If you read the story in Spanish, you're not very comfortable reading the story in English, there's a version of the book that's a read aloud version, and you can just play it and listen to the story being read aloud. There's always a way, and there are resources that we can use if we're a monolingual family to include the bilingual element. It's all about finding those resources or letting me know that you need them so I can go ahead and find them for you. After we read the story a couple times, and I'm suggesting you read the story in English and then Spanish and then English again. And you can do this as many times as you want or have time for, because what we want is we want to emphasize those connections. But after we've done that, what we're going to do, if we have the physical books, we're going to allow the children to explore the text closely by giving them the books to browse and to investigate. We want this activity to feel like an investigation, like they're looking for something, they're looking for those connections. They heard the story, they listened for the similarities, and now they're going to look for them in the reading text. So if you don't have the physical book to explore and to read, and you're using the read aloud versions of the story, you can do this part of the activity as well, because you can play the video and pause it and allow the children to look through the story and find those words. And what we're going to do is we are going to write them down. So you can do this yourself, or you can assigned, scribed to take notes. And what you're going to do is on a piece of paper, or if you have that whiteboard, you are going to create 2 columns, one English, one Spanish. And as the children explore the books, as they were listening, and now as they are exploring the words, you are going to be recording the words they find, the cognates. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. It's very simple. If you have a piece of paper, or if you have a chalkboard or a whiteboard, you can, this is what I want you to do. I want you to divide into 2 columns. One is going to be English, one is going to be Spanish, and underneath you're going to jot down all the words that you are able to find that are similar in the way they sound, similar in the way they are written. After we have our lists, we are going to create. This is the creative part of the activity. And so we're going to pull out and distribute the materials, and we're going to introduce the activity, Our Winter Wonderland. As part of the post, you have some ideas you might want to use for inspiration to guide the children to create their own dioramas. And again, all those resources are part of the free resources from Teachers by Teachers, but you don't have to download anything if you don't have that option. You can just look at those examples and create your own. So I'm going to show you 2 diorama templates and 2 diorama projects that could serve as inspiration. All right, here is one diorama template, and this is in case you don't actually have a box that you could use to place your objects on. This is a template that you can create out of paper or a construction paper. And another one is this one, and this is more of a triangular base, that is the same concept, the same idea. Those are the templates, and here is a project, diorama project. In this case is a Christmas diorama, but you can easily see how this project could be related to winter, in the winter season. Instead of focusing on Christmas as the holiday, you could focus on the season, the winter season. And another one, it's for a different season. This is for spring, but this could also serve as an inspiration for your winter diorama. What is going to be happening after? So once you've created our winter dioramas, we are going to go back to our list of cognates, and we're going to pick the words that we want to include as part of our diorama as labels. We're going to be creating little labels, and we are going to have another chance to study the words closely. And when I say we, I mean the children. So we're going to have another opportunity to look at our list. And what I want you to do is I want you to allow them to take a marker or a highlighter and go to the notebook or to the chart and highlight the parts of the words that are the same in both languages. And we are going to read our selected book again. And now that we have the chart and that we created our labels, we are going to practice saying together all the cognates in each language out loud. So if we have the chart, we can point to the word that is coming as part of the story to help the children know which word to say next. And to read the story again together, we could use echo reading, which means that you read a part of the story and then the children will read that same part back to you. Or you could use a choral reading, which means that everybody is going to be reading together. Now, the final step will be to show our diorama to the group, to everybody. And we are going to share the cognates that we chose from the story to complement our diorama. If we have a larger group of children and we have a bigger box, we could do this as a collective activity. That will be great. As always, I highly recommend for you to extend the experience of the mini lessons of our time together. And we could do this as part of our family reading ritual. How? Well, we could display those books, the Snowy Day and the Spanish version of the book. If we have them, we could display them as part of our Book of the Week collection. And that way, children will have many more chances to explore the books, read them, browse them, and maybe gain some additional inspiration from the books by creating something else, maybe a drawing, a painting, or another type of craft. I hope you enjoyed and found inspiration in this mini lesson. For another book about winter and the winter season, you may want to check out Winnie Loves Winter. This book describes some special things about the winter season, and even though the book is in English, the text is very short and simple, so it could be easily translated for this activity. If you're interested, you can visit Sugar Cookie Books for this and other seasonal books. Now we are going to go through the whole mini lesson again, but in Spanish. Ahora vamos a ir sobre toda esta pequeña lección, pero en español. Bienvenidos a esta mini lección, que es una mini lección bilingüe sobre el tema de el invierno o la temporada de invierno. El objetivo de esta lección es aprender más sobre la temporada de invierno y crear nuestro propio diorama de invierno. La destreza en la que nos vamos a estar enfocando es la destreza auditiva y vamos a estar pendientes de aquellas palabras que se escuchan similar. Estas palabras se conocen como cognados. Los cognados son palabras que tienen un origen común, una raíz común en más de un idioma. En este caso, el inglés y el español tienen muchas palabras que provienen del mismo origen, por lo tanto, se escuchan y se escriben similar. En el artículo vas a encontrar una pequeña vista de la actividad de principio a fin. También vas a encontrar los enlaces al libro recomendado. Y el libro recomendado es Un día de nieve. Este es un libro que fue escrito en inglés, pero tiene su traducción en español. Por lo tanto, lo vamos a utilizar en conjunto para esta actividad. El vocabulario que vamos a estar explorando es el vocabulario de invierno, nieve, pero en ese diálogo que vamos a entablar con los niños, en esa conversación, las palabras que vayan surgiendo relacionadas con el invierno, todas aquellas palabras, conceptos que ellos ya conozcan, todas esas están bienvenidas, no importa si no salen necesariamente en el cuento que vamos a leer. No queremos limitarlos. Y de nuevo vamos a estar bien pendientes de escuchar y de llamar su atención, la atención de los niños a esas palabras que son cognados, que se escuchan similar. En el artículo comparto con ustedes algunas de las palabras que yo encontré en mi lectura de ambos libros, de ambos cuentos, y unas palabras adicionales. En términos de los materiales, vamos a estar utilizando una caja de zapatos reciclada, si la tiene, o otro tipo de caja pequeña, papel reciclado, papel blanco, papel de construcción, marcadores, polígrafos, lápices de colores, si tiene plasticina o plastilina, tijeras, pega, cinta adhesiva, y si los niños tienen pequeños juguetes o accesorios que quieran incorporar en su diorama, eso está fantástico porque de esa manera ellos van a darse cuenta cómo están creando algo que pueden utilizar después para jugar. En términos de la estrategia, vamos a utilizar la estrategia que a mí me gusta más implementar cuando estoy planificando o cuando estoy ejecutando una lección o una actividad con los niños, y esa es antes, durante y después. Y antes lo que vamos a hacer es leer, reunirnos para leer Un día de nieve. Y vamos a realizar preguntas de descubrimiento para tener una idea del conocimiento previo que ellos traen ya sobre el tema y animarlos a que compartan sus experiencias y sus propias preguntas. Después que leamos el cuento completo en uno de los dos idiomas, y podemos leerlo más de una vez, tantas veces como sea necesario o como tengamos el tiempo de poder hacerlo. Y después vamos a pedirles a ellos que presten mucha atención cuando leamos nuevamente el cuento en el otro idioma, para recordarles que vamos a estar escuchando palabras que suenan similar a las que ya escuchamos previamente en el otro idioma. Antes de continuar, les recuerdo que en el artículo tienen enlaces a unos videos de lectura en voz alta de estos libros, tanto de la versión en inglés como de la versión en español. En el caso de que usted no se sienta muy cómodo leyendo en voz alta en alguno de los dos idiomas, usted puede leerlo en el idioma que se sienta más cómodo, y en el otro lo que podemos hacer es escuchar juntos la versión grabada del video. Es decir, hay muchas herramientas y estrategias que se pueden utilizar para poder llevar a cabo una actividad bilingüe a pesar de que nosotros seamos monolingües. Y si usted tiene alguna duda en alguna de esas estrategias o necesita algunas herramientas, no duden en comunicarse conmigo y de mandarme sus preguntas, y yo con gusto le puedo ayudar a encontrar esas herramientas. Ahora, después que ya estamos plenamente inmersos en el tema de esta actividad, lo que vamos a buscar es que los niños exploren más de cerca el texto. Si tenemos los libros físicos, se los vamos a permitir hojear para que ellos no solamente ahora, después de haber pasado la experiencia de escuchar, ahora vamos a explorar los libros y buscar esas palabras que se ven similar. Lo que vamos a hacer es que vamos a utilizar un cuaderno o libreta, o si tenemos una tabla que podamos crear con dos columnas, vamos a poner una columna inglés, vamos a poner otra columna español, y bajo cada columna vamos a ir anotando esas palabras que suenan y se ven similar. Podemos hacer esto nosotros o podemos solicitar a alguno de nuestros niños que ya tiene esas competencias para escribir, o el niño que esté motivado a hacerlo para que sea el que lleve ese registro. En el artículo vamos a encontrar una tabla de ejemplo que la puede entonces buscar. También va a encontrar una tabla con 3 columnas que puede utilizar durante el tiempo de preguntas de descubrimiento. Todos esos recursos los puede encontrar en el artículo. Una vez hayamos pasado por el proceso de exploración y de empezar ese registro de las palabras, vamos a pasar a la parte creativa de la actividad. Vamos a sacar y distribuir todos los materiales y vamos a introducir la actividad Nuestro maravilloso mundo de nieve, o la creación de nuestro diorama de invierno. De nuevo, en el artículo les estoy compartiendo unos recursos gratis que son parte de la plataforma Teachers Pay Teachers. Tiene 2 ejemplos de formatos de diorama en el caso de que no tenga una caja de zapatos o una cajita pequeña, usted lo puede crear. Y también va a tener 2 ejemplos de proyectos de diorama. Uno de ellos es sobre la Navidad y otro es sobre la estación o la temporada de primavera. Y ambos son simplemente para que usted tenga y el niño tenga una inspiración. Una vez hemos creado nuestro diorama de invierno, lo que vamos a hacer es que vamos a volver a la tabla de nuestros cognados y vamos a escoger las palabras que queremos incluir en nuestro diorama como unos letreros. Lo que vamos a crear son unos letreritos que vamos a incorporar en nuestro diorama. Y mientras lo hacemos, esto nos da una oportunidad adicional para estudiar estas palabras al detalle. Lo que les estoy sugiriendo es que le permitan a los niños coger ese marcador, coger ese bolígrafo, coger ese resaltador y buscar y señalar en esas palabras cuáles son las letras, cuáles son las partes de las palabras que son similares en ambos idiomas. Ahora vamos a leer nuestro cuento seleccionado una vez más. Y lo que vamos a hacer es que vamos a practicar juntos decir todos los cognados en cada idioma en voz alta una vez más. Esto lo podemos hacer practicando la lectura de eco, que lo que quiere decir es que nosotros vamos a leer un pedacito y ellos van a leerlo nuevamente después de nosotros, o podemos practicar la lectura coral, que es que todos juntos vamos a leer a la vez en voz alta. Y si tenemos nuestra tabla cerca, podemos señalar las palabras que son cognados que vienen en la historia para que todos los niños sepan qué palabra vamos a repetir en voz alta, que son los cognados. El último paso va a ser mostrar nuestro diorama al resto del grupo con mucho orgullo y compartir esos cognados que nosotros escogimos del cuento para decorar y para identificar ciertas partes de nuestro diorama. Luego de esto, lo que yo les sugiero es que, como al final de toda actividad que estemos realizando con los niños, no lo dejemos solamente allí, sino que lo podamos extender y continuar. Hacer algo que pueda dar continuidad a la experiencia que tuvimos previamente de lectura y de creación y de descubrimiento. Y una manera de hacer esto es que cojamos los libros seleccionados y los integremos a nuestro ritual de lectura familiar y durante esa semana los expongamos y los dejemos siempre visibles y accesibles para que los niños los puedan tocar, manipular, leer, releer cuantas veces ellos quieran en ambos idiomas y sigan creando esas conexiones. Espero que hayas disfrutado y encontrado inspiración en esta mini lección. Si te interesa otro libro sobre el invierno, a lo mejor podrías buscar el libro Winnie Loves Winter de Sugar Cookie Books. Este es un libro que describe otras cosas especiales sobre el invierno y la temporada de invierno. Y aunque el libro está en inglés, el texto es corto y sencillo, así que podría ser fácilmente traducido para utilizar en esta actividad. Si te interesa, en el artículo tienes el enlace a la página de Sugar Cookie Books. Now it's our time to close this time together. I'm super excited for you to implement this bilingual mini lesson. If you have any questions about this mini lesson or any other resource that I'm sharing through the blog or social media, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love to hear from you guys and support you during your journey as bilingual families. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Mini lessons, book reviews, book explorations, reading, writing, bilingualism, and all those topics that I'm so passionate about. I'm also planning some workshop content, so if you're interested, just go ahead and subscribe for that. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Muchas gracias por estar conmigo en el día de hoy. Until next time, hasta la próxima.